this business is like so hard to stay like really laser focused because like there's always going to be somebody getting it bigger. You know what I mean? And like I've really close friends who like I've come up with and all that, you know, their artists may be having a major moment right now. And that's amazing. What's great about this business is like, one, there's a million ways to win, but also there's enough room for everyone to win. You know what I mean? And so that's awesome, but it's hard. You know what I mean? When you'll see something and like someone gets the look that you think one of your artists deserved and stuff, you know? And I think that, I mean, that could be really hard to kind of like keep track of, but I think it's then focusing on the small wins that make you really, you know, like just keep you going. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not necessarily about the big look that you're going to get that day or that someone else has that. It's about like building all the small wins and looking at all the great things that are happening and knowing that all those things are ultimately getting you to like your ultimate goal.
Purpose in the youth. Purpose in the Youth podcast. Welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Today in the house, founder of Mutual Friends, all the way from Dix Hills, New York, Jesse Coren.
Man.
What's up, brother?
Not much. Happy to be here.
I'm stoked to have you
here.
here.
First time doing something like this.
You know what? And there's no better place to be than with the bearded man. We're going to capture this story. This is going to be the best podcast in your career. This is going to be the best one of 2019 right now.
Let's do it.
You know what's crazy? I don't even know if you realize this. We've met before. So, and I wanted to wait till the podcast up to tell you this story. So I was in New York in March of 2017. Dylan had a show at Webster Hall. Just so happens the next night after him
was Quinn's show. The Quinn show.
So Matt had hit I think either you up or Mike up and was like, "Hey,
I remember that. I remember everyone being there. Yep. I know exactly when you're talking about too. Yep. It's funny because most times when it's like, oh, I met somebody, it's like it's at a show when like my mind is always like, you know, I could see the biggest celebrity at a show and not remember or take it in because I'll be like, in the moment, you know, like in the zone, in the moment, dealing with whatever, thinking about everything. That was a particularly like really, I remember, important show.
That was his first tour, right?
It was his first tour
in New York City. That's a big deal.
New York his second time in New York, but first since he had signed to Columbia Records. And I remember it was just like a very big. It was like when things were really starting to pick up.
Yeah.
And we actually didn't even have the New York show in the tour initially because he had just played there, and it was kind of like a secondary market tour. And then it was just, you know, as things were really starting to move and the tour did, you know, incredibly well, it was like, okay, we have the night off, we should do something in New York, like let's get everyone at the label there, it was a really like fan driven thing always. So I think it was like one of those things where, and it still is this way, where it's like you need to come, you need to see the show, you need to see the fans, you need to see all that. So I remember that one in particular was like first time having everyone from the label at the show, really like, you know,
a legendary venue, like it doesn't get much better than that.
Yep.
I think that's one thing.
So that makes sense.
I had to wait. I so much wanted to tell you when we greeted you, and I was like, nah, I gotta save this gem for the podcast because if I tell him now, it's gonna be missed and I won't be able to retell the story. But that's one thing I think you guys do really good, or at least I know like Quinn just announced this whole, he's gonna like go around the country and play his album, is like building that genuine fan base and giving it back to them, because that's how you keep growing.
Most important thing.
Double down on them and you keep growing with them.
Yeah.
So you got Quinn XCII, you got Chelsea Cutler, Jeremy Zucker, ayokay. Massive 4 artists right there.
I'm lucky. I'm really lucky.
Are you lucky?
I say that every day. I'm like, they make me look really good at my job, and they make it look like everyone's always like, how do you do this? I'm like, I have really talented artists. You know what I mean? Like that is really, and like really good people. Like I'm like, and I always say this. I say this in a room with nobody around. I say this in this setting. Like they're all my best friends, and it's like hence the mutual friends thing, and that was like like they I am so lucky, and it's like I know that, and then also you'll like get into, you know, you'll hear about other things, or you'll talk to your friends who have other clients and all that, and you'll hear what they're going through, and it's just like so much of that stuff like I just don't, as a manager, like
You don't deal with.
I don't, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like, they're just all really good people,
Yeah.
and we're all really close, and they're all really close with each other. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So a lot of the things that you like fear or have to deal with sometimes as a manager, like so much of that I just don't.
It seems
I'm
so much
lucky.
more like a team, you know.
Absolutely.
Like I think there are a lot of smaller type management things that probably pop up, and it doesn't. I feel like it's a brother sisterhood with you guys.
is.
And I think that's what's the most amazing. It's like showing people that you can build a really good team, and everybody's gonna eat. Everybody's gonna win with their own lanes, and we're gonna help each other out, and we're gonna help bring each other up.
Always. And it's interesting because it's like, it was never forced. Like it was a really genuine thing. Like, you know, I met Quinn through my fiance, who they went to school together. This is 5 years ago. They went to school together at Michigan State. I was kind of actively looking for a new artist. She had reached out to me and was like, hey, there's this kid at my school, you know, my roommate knows him, and he's got these songs we love, you know, and you hear that all the time. You're like, yeah, whatever. You know
Everybody's
what I mean?
got a song I should hear.
Exactly. Everyone's got a friend, and this,
Yeah.
and I heard it, and I was immediately just in love. And it was like, it was way
Was he
different.
Mike T at the time?
He wasn't Mike T. He was still Quinn.
Okay.
But it was still before, like, I mean, obviously, it was before any original music could really come out. At the time, they were really just like sampling other beats and stuff, and it was still definitely when he was doing more of the rapping and all that.
Wow.
And through him I met ayokay, and then you know, ayokay had found Chelsea on SoundCloud, like, you know, 2 years into us all working together, and their career started to take off, and he found Chelsea on SoundCloud just through like covers and shit she was doing. Sorry, I don't know if I.
No, you can say you can say whatever you want. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Through,
Let it fly, baby. Let it fly.
Through covers that she was doing, and was in love, and was like, you know, showed it to me and was like, this girl is a star. It's spent months like basically trying to like track her down and get them in a room. Finally we did, and he was totally like, you know, he really, you know, kind of found her and had this vision and brought it to me, and we spoke a lot about it and all that. And ultimately after they worked together, we had met after the session that they did, and he was really involved in kind of bringing her into the family. And then Jeremy, actually, I met through, he and Quinn had done a song together in like 2015 or maybe late 14 or 15, like when both were still like, it was really early SoundCloud days. And I had obviously never heard of him, of Jeremy, and I remember Quinn called me and he's like, hey, and we hadn't really done features and stuff. And he was starting to like, you know, in the kind of blog and hype machine and SoundCloud world, he was starting to like pick up a lot. It was, I think, after the first EP. And I remember he was like, yo, this kid hit me on SoundCloud, and like, you know, his name's Jeremy Zucker. He's like really dope. He's got like a couple of, you know, songs out. I think he's going to be a star. Like, can I get on a record? And I was like, sure. Like, you know, we just had never done features. So it was like, you know, and I was like, yeah, I mean, if you like him and you want to do it, then absolutely. And then obviously I dove in and like I mean, they're the best A&Rs. Artists to me are always, for the most part, always the best A&Rs. Mine happen to all be, you know? And like, so obviously I listened because, you know, when Quinn said he thought it was really great, I started listening. I was like, this is amazing. And then I kept in touch with him and saw his, you know, the sound and everything just progressing a lot. Yeah. And I remember like when he sent me his first, the next EP before it came out, he had just sent me a bunch of the stuff and was like, hey, what do you think? And I freaked out.
Called them up.
And I freaked out. And then, and then it still took a little while. And then, you know, like probably a year after that, I just, every now and then, you know, we kept in touch. I would make sure that like I was always available if he needed anything or had questions or whatever, anything I could be like a resource. And and then finally everything just kind of came together between like, you know, him doing his record deal and the career growing a lot and him needing, you know, a team and management and stuff. So it worked out really well. But like, I guess the point of all that is like, it was a really like genuine, organic, just everyone was fans of each other, you know what I mean, and supported each other or worked together in a certain way. So like the kind of team and family, like, you know, just vibe that everyone has is, it was never like, hey, I'm going to start managing this and I want you to put them on. You know what I mean? It was like everyone loved each other. Everyone was supportive. And I think also when you do that and when it's genuine and people know that, then, and you really care for those people and stuff, like everyone, it helps everybody. You know what I mean? Putting somebody on doesn't necessarily, you know, only help that person, you know what I mean? And it's not, and you don't do it to only to get something in return. But I think in certain ways, just organically, like you can really better each other.
You strip away the music, you strip away the money, you strip away all this other things that are happening. It comes down to just the people. You care about the people. You want to see them succeed, and so it's not about what a lot of people get caught up in. And that's what I knew going into this that there had to have been some genuine build to this whole circle of you guys, because that didn't just happen, and it sounded like just a natural organic growth of check out this person's music, let me help them out. Oh, maybe I should formally make this a management
100%
relationship.
Yeah.
And in what ways do you think they've made you a better manager?
Say that again?
In what ways do you think they've made you a better manager? Because you had, as we'll get into in a little bit, you had management experience beforehand.
Yeah.
But what ways do you think working with them made you?
A lot. They're all super competitive. They're all super, hardworking. So like, nobody slacks. You know what I mean? Nobody. Everyone holds each other accountable. They hold me accountable. I think when you're really working with like amazing artists and people, like you have to be better and better. You know what I mean?
They hold
so
you
it's like,
to a standard
right,
as well.
Exactly. So it's like, I think it's like, it's not like they say, hey, every single week you need to send me X, Y, and Z, or, they trust me that I do my job and all that. But I think it's just this internal thing of like, we're all the same way, where it's like, I want to be working as hard as like, I need to work as hard or harder than my artists, and they feel the same way about me and all that. So it's like, I think just being really good and being really talented and being really good people, because I think being a good person is what ultimately is what encourages me the most, because I want to help people that I love. Yeah. And I think all of that is just like this internal, I want to improve in everything I'm doing because I want to give and service them better. You know what I mean? So it's everything.
Yeah, you
it's
guys
everything
are just
every
competing
day.
against each other.
Totally.
But...
And it's like competing in it, like not in a way, you know what I mean? It's more so in like I just know that I want to do, they're all going to be, are on their way to being superstars, and they are superstars, but
they're going to sell each the garden,
and that's the goal, and so I feel like I need to do right by them and improve and keep getting better, to keep providing for what they each have in front of them. You know what I mean? So that's really it's everything every day.
That's amazing. We're gonna get into a lot of the music stuff in a little bit. Let's kind of backtrack though. Let's paint the picture. Talk to me about Dix Hills, New York. What's this environment like for you growing up?
I'm very, very good. I grew up in an amazing home with a really close family. I have an older brother. My dad's a veterinarian. I worked at the animal hospital for forever.
Was that the first job?
Probably the first like real job. Yeah.
How old were you?
Probably in middle school.
Oh wow! So he got you.
I was like in the kennels, and I did when I was an attendant and all that. Okay. Like I think like in my head, I was always way more like creative and whatever in a sense, and like I love music, I loved all that, and I think naturally it was like, oh, I also love animals. You know what I mean? I'm going to be a veterinarian, and then. I think in high school I was still working there, but I realized like I was just I would make music, I would rap, I would just like screw around with friends.
You were trying it all out.
No,
yourself.
I was never like pursuing it. Okay. But you know what I mean?
But you were
was
messing
like,
around with
it. I love music, so it's like of course I'm gonna freestyle and like all that stuff, and and still if you catch me on the right night, I might
give him a couple of Bud Lights. We'll give you some bars.
Yeah, it's a tequila, baby. But like so just like through that I loved fashion, I loved all that, and I just loved like arts and entertainment and stuff. So I think I realized then like the going and I also I liked school, but I wasn't like the idea of 4 extra years of veterinary school and all that. It was just not for me.
You're not trying to do that.
Yeah, no, this wasn't. My brother is a veterinarian.
Oh, so he followed the footsteps.
Yeah, and so I think I realized in high school it was like not what I was really like gonna do long term, and then I went to college. And I don't know if I'm like skipping here, but I went to college and I was at the business school at University of Maryland.
Yep.
And I knew I wanted to do something in like business or something, entrepreneurship and whatever. But there was I think it was actually, I went to school kind of still having an idea I would want to do something in entertainment. Didn't really know what that involved. Knew I loved business. Ended up going to the business school. This summer of my freshman year of college, I got an internship at a boutique management company, which I ultimately ended up being at for a few years. And that's, I think I just didn't, I didn't know what management was, you know what I mean? It was just like,
you just wanted to do something with the music. You loved the music.
For sure.
Okay.
And so I just did that. I loved it immediately. Like, I think I got it really early and like, I loved it. That first summer after school, interning, and then that was when I just knew like I wanted to be in.
What was the moment?
Business.
Was there a certain moment, or?
I don't think a certain moment,
Yeah.
but like definitely just. I think it was more like. I think it was really more natural. You know what I mean? Like I think I always knew I wanted to do something in it. So when I started interning and being in that business and stuff,
Yeah.
it was almost not like this is what I want to do. It was like, yeah, this makes sense that I'm like here doing this. It was really cool. It was more so like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't even know that this was like a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the idea of a manager for at the time it was DJs, but like, you know, music and all that. It's just like I wasn't that in depth with like what, you know, like Scooter and all that stuff wasn't like a thing yet. You know what I mean? Like the idea.
I feel like
of,
everybody now is aspiring.
Yeah, like then I like, you know, then that happened. But like there weren't as many, at least, you know, in the music that I was into growing up. It wasn't like I was digging behind the scenes at who was doing what at the time in middle school or high school. But then I think when I started doing that, it was more so like, yeah, this is just natural. Like this is of course what I like want to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh my God, I figured it out. It was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do, but now I figured out like how to do what I want to do.
So
you know
did you spend, because that internship was after freshman year, correct?
Freshman year.
So did you spend the next 3 years in school knowing I want to get into music management?
Yeah.
I need to figure out how I'm going to do that.
It was interesting because not really even how. I went back to school after that first summer, and I knew I was gonna be there. Like I knew I was going back every summer, and I knew I was gonna graduate and go work there. So it was interesting because it was like, you know, I knew right away. I knew I loved it, and I was almost like secure. So it wasn't like the whole like I need to figure this out or figure that out. It was like, you know, I was lucky because it was kind of like, yeah, I know what I want to do, and I know what, like, you know, I know where I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Initially, so it was like I had a great experience. I loved them. They were, you know, the two partners were like raised me, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just knew. So like the rest of college was kind of just like, you know, I was getting really involved in like working remotely and trying to figure it out and learn more of the business because like I still wanted to, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I know what I'm going to do, cool, whatever. You know, I still wanted to like learn and do all that, but it wasn't like on the race for a job or trying to find, you know, try interning at a label and try interning here or whatever it was. It was more so just like, cool, I know what I'm doing every summer and I'm going to like work on, you know, different stuff or like try getting into like booking a show here or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's never really ended up happening. I DJ'd in college. So like random stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, did that really through college and was just like, I'm going to enjoy college, work,
that's such
figure it out.
Oh my God.
And I was chill. It was great.
Yeah.
Like
Because
I
you know what you're doing.
Totally. I knew what I was doing. At least like initially I knew what I was doing. And that was like definitely changed my college experience because I was not.
You weren't even thinking about it. It's like, I just got to have fun the next 3 years.
No, I wasn't. It was great.
Yeah. And that was, I don't know if we set up, that was University of Maryland for, I don't remember if you had said that, but that's crazy just to be able to kind of just coast along.
It was great. It was great. It was, I was really lucky, you know?
So then you end up graduating and then do you move immediately to New York City?
Move back to the city.
And it's with DJI management.
Yeah, DJI management.
So I'm just curious too, like, were you ever even though you had kind of figured out you wanted to do music management, were you ever nervous? Because you always hear people like talk about like, oh, it's the music industry. Oh, it's the entertainment industry. Like there's a lot of shit that kind of happens. Like people backstab you. Like what kept you going through, even though people might have been saying stuff like that?
It was, I think, I mean, I just really liked it, you know what I mean? But I'll be real, like I always thought like, you know, early on, and it's the biggest like misconception in the music business. Yeah. And I've learned that, and I always say this, but it's like early on, and look, I mean, in any business, in the world, there are people that, you know, that there are bad people everywhere, you know what I mean? But like there are, what I always thought was that, you know, like you said, you know, there are these like stigmas about the business that are like, you know, you're going to get screwed and there's a lot of backstabbing people. It's a really rough industry. It's whatever. And in my head, I had a really close group of friends in college. And in my head, it was always like, cool, I'm going to do this. But like, because of all this stuff people say, I'm going to have my friends. I'm not going to really like or know people in the business, but I love the business. I love, you know, music. Yeah. I'm going to do it. But like, you know, I don't feel like I'm going to like really, it sounded like I wasn't going to like live in the business. You know what I mean? Because the business sounded like this crazy thing. Yeah. And it's literally like the biggest misconception of the business. And I think now it's from 2010 to now, it's definitely changed and become a little bit more like, I feel like there's less of that. Yeah. That, you know, kind of.
I feel like social media exposes a lot of things.
Totally. And you realize like, oh, this is a really like legitimate business. And like there are smart people that do this and all that, you know, but everyone growing up, you know, you hear just like the bad, scary stuff. So it was, in my head, it was always like, oh, I'm gonna like work in the business, but I'm never gonna like have friends in it, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Because I like what I do, and it's the complete opposite. You know, like my best friends. I mean, I'm still all my best friends from college still are, but I have some of my closest friends are from working. You know what I mean? From the music business and other managers, people that work at labels. I mean, it's the greatest group of people. Like I really haven't met anyone that I don't like. You know what I mean? And there are people that, you know, aren't necessarily my vibe or pace or whatever.
Yeah, you just don't, they don't stay in your circle.
That's
they don't
anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you're in real estate, you're in this, whatever. That's just always going to be the case. You're not going to like be best friends with everyone, but like some of my best friends that will be my best friends forever, like I met through this, you know? Yeah. So I wasn't nervous, but that was, So
you end up spending 10 years though, pretty much with DJI, which is not full 10?
10 including interning.
Yeah, I was more saying 10 because of that you started interning and then.
So it was about 9 years.
Okay, about 9 years. What do you think was the biggest lesson you learned within that time frame?
I mean, a lot, but I learned a lot about like the fundamental side of management. You know what I mean? As far as like what I was doing and the artists that I was managing were in a different space, but like you learn a lot about, but so many of the things you could apply to anything. You know what I mean? So much of like management is managing personalities. You know what I mean? And managing people. And so whether you're doing it for this act or a rapper, or a country artist, or a DJ or whatever, you know what I mean? So much of it is the same. So a lot of that, and I think just like, you know, the family sort of environment, like I was really, really close with since day one. Like they brought me under their wing with the partners of the company. Yeah. And, you know, the people I worked with there and stuff. So I think that sort of like really boutique, indie, super close-knit type of group is something that I just like took from there because that's how we always were. So like that became just part of my culture in like the business. You know,
you're not just a number two. You're actually seeing everything when it's that tight knit group instead of a massive corporation where you might be just a little guy on the totem pole and doesn't know what he's doing. And
empowering, like you know, they always were, and to their credit, I always say this, like they always were very empowering as far as like, you know, me having autonomy and being able to do what I wanted. And initially, and that's really how I grew my own business, you know, was through having that and being able to do those things while I was there. And, you know, it's kind of like the gift and the curse because it's like, you know, it ended up leading to us parting ways. But at the same time, like I'm super grateful for that because so many people in this business, in any business, like, you know, you start kind of working under the wrong people who really stunt your growth and don't want you to grow.
They don't want you to leave. They want you to stay right where you are.
And they're like happy with you being the guy.
Don't leave us.
And
keep
that was
working
never the
hard.
Case, you know what I mean? And had that been the case, I may never be here. You know what I mean? So so I'm really grateful for that because it was never a question of like, it was always like empowering me to do more and, you know, me seeing the growth and trajectory of, you know, the business and stuff.
Now, obviously we touched on it earlier about how the relationship with all four artists kind of came naturally together and organically, but in your mind, what is going through your head when you're launching Mutual Friends? Like, how do you want this brand and this company to differentiate versus other management companies?
The artists and like the kind of like everything you said, kind of like the I guess the dynamic, you know what I mean, of what it was. You know, it's like it was really just taking what it was and then applying something to it. It's funny because like when I left DJI, I didn't have. It wasn't like I mean, I knew I was going to like start a company and all that. And it's funny because I'll get then into like, you know, now my new partnership, which kind of was like the next transition of it. But like when I left there and I was really doing Quinn and ayokay and starting to do Chelsea. And that's when I like made the decision to go out on my own. Because, you know, kind of like the business that they have is amazing, but it's just a different space of the business. And so, you know, when I left there, it was kind of like I realized I didn't even have a name at first. Mutual Friends was actually just a collective of the artists. I remember it was something that like Quinn had like mentioned to me, and he's like, I just love this kind of like name, and it feels like us and all that. Like he's just like the word, like I just love Mutual Friends. It feels so much like us, and then
easy going.
As it grew, it became just like the collective. So originally it was really the artist collective, and then it was kind of like, why wouldn't I? You know, I remember I was like, I don't want to. That's kind of like your collective. I don't want that to become like a name of like in my signature and stuff like that. Even though I loved it, and they were kind of like, how do you not? You know what I mean? Everyone's like, how do you not? It's like it is. Everyone in the collective is the artist you manage, and that's what the management company is. So why not do that? And obviously then I was like, absolutely, yeah, why don't I,
Yeah.
But that was really it. It was just like the idea of just like that dynamic, you know what I mean? Of like it being more of like a family environment, and it's something that you can like attach to, whether you're a fan of one or the other, but something that you can attach to like outside, it like something that you can attach to, I guess, in addition to attaching to the artist, you know what I mean? Where it's like this kind of like idea of like all of them are very similar in the sense of like the type of people they are, and the type of music, and a lot of crossover in fan base. And I don't mean that in the style of music, but I just mean the way that they came up, all of our mentalities, all that kind of stuff. So I think it was just kind of like a way of having people understand what that was on like by having like a power of numbers, you know what I mean? Like being able to really demonstrate a lot of that stuff through all four of them being under the same roof, under the same company.
Yeah, same message, same good vibes, right. Same energy. What's been like your secret formula to building relationships? Because I find that a lot of time people don't necessarily know how to do that in the right ways. And that doesn't even have to be for somebody that's trying to step into music industry, but like, what's the best way that you've approached building relationships with the right people?
Being genuine, you know what I mean? Like I like genuinely love like what I do so much, you know what I mean? And like I love meeting people. I'm a very social person, but like I love connecting with people on different things, you know what I mean? Like I just love like finding common interests, and like being able to have a like unique relationship or bond with somebody, you know what I mean? And that just, it's not like I'm gonna do that so that I can like meet this person and they do something at this company that I need, you know what I mean? It's just like I like that just in my everyday life. Like I enjoy that. I enjoy conversation. So like I think it's really that, just like being and looking out for people, you know what I mean? Like just trying to do what you can for other people. Not really expecting anything in return for that, but I think mostly just like finding common bonds and really genuinely caring about people. And like I think when you do what you love and you work around people that you love, it's easy to do that, you know what I mean? So I think really like that.
Also too, I've realized, not to cut you off, is you kind of have to like give these relationships patience. For sure. Like you have to just kind of let that naturally grow, and then somehow it kind of full circles. And the favor that I did for you that I'm not going to expect anything in return, you end up hooking me up with something. But it's like you kind of have to establish a relationship and not ask for anything, and just naturally try to help out when you can and hope that it comes back to you at some point.
And I think it's like even just demonstrating, just like, I think being a good person, but also it's like demonstrating like hard work and all that stuff. Like no one like deserves anything from anybody in a sense, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't like go into things where I'm like, I expect or I deserve, or like, I'm going to be mad if this takes a while, or you might not answer me on the first 4 emails. And like, so it's like, I understand that, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you can't always expect that just because you want something that somebody's going to be there to give it to you. So it's like, you know what, if that person doesn't see it yet, I'm just going to keep like working and doing something, and eventually they will, you know what I mean? It's like trusting and understanding that, like, and not being like mad or like upset with that person. Like I never hold grudges if it's like somebody. It's funny, like my now business partner, I had reached out the first time I emailed him, I never heard back, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like, oh man, he ghosted me. Yeah. And literally we laugh about it all the time. I sent him the email, and it's like, you got to realize it's like you and
little does he know.
And of course, and I do it to, you know, like I do that accidentally, you know what I mean? It's like, it's impossible to like stay on top of everything. And or even necessarily see somebody's vision like from day one, you know what I mean? And it wasn't that, it was really just like, connecting about something between two of our artists, and I never heard back. And it wasn't like, I was like, oh, screw that kid, whatever, he ghosted me. It was like, no, like I'm gonna, and then a year down the line we ended up meeting, and now we're partners, you know what I mean? But it's like, you can't necessarily like expect that you're gonna get something immediately because you want it, and that everyone's gonna necessarily see your vision right away, you know what I mean? Or ever, you know?
Talk to me about the vision aspect, because that's actually a really important part, like, especially in the early days, maybe even when you're really just starting to work with Quinn or ayokay, like what keeps you motivated when nobody's paying attention, when nobody's giving them the credit they deserve, or when they're not getting anywhere the amount of plays that they're getting? Like, What was that vision, and what motivated you to just keep pushing, keep going?
Early on, it was like, when you're not seeing much reaction right away, like
Yeah.
it's just believing the artist, you know what I mean? And believing in yourself, you know what I mean? Like, I think I genuinely, I like, we had immediately like formed this like brotherhood bond, you know what I mean? And it was like, they were my younger brothers and we grinded it out, and you just share like that special bond when you're like coming from, like ground up and trying to figure it out. So I think immediately, like, when in those days, it was that, you know what I mean? Knowing that, like, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, what we're doing is amazing. And it's just going to take time for that to navigate that.
Yeah.
And then now it's I think it's just knowing kind of like where everything is heading, and knowing that, I mean, just seeing it, you know what I mean? Like, seeing that
The fruit comes, what did they say? The fruition, seeing it, the fruits of labor.
Totally. Seeing like what is ahead, you know what I mean? And knowing that. And I think also just like the little things, like small wins, you know what I mean? Like finding the things where it's like, it might not, because this business is like so hard to stay like really laser focused, because like there's always going to be somebody getting it bigger, you know what I mean? And like, I've really close friends who like I've come up with and all that, their artists may be having a major moment right now. And that's amazing. And what's great about this business is like, one, there's a million ways to win, but also there's enough room for everyone to win. You know what I mean? And so that's awesome, but it's hard. You know what I mean? When you'll see something and like someone gets the look that you think one of your artists deserved and stuff, you know? And I think that, I mean, that could be really hard to kind of like keep track of, but I think it's then focusing on the small wins that make you really, that just keep you going. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not necessarily about the big look that you're going to get that day or that someone else has that. It's about like building all the small wins and looking at all the great things that are happening and knowing that all those things are ultimately getting you to like your ultimate goal.
It's easy for people like myself or somebody that might not know the backstory of Quinn or Chelsea or even you, but it's like, so you're seeing all these things happen before them now, but you're not realizing like there was a time where they were just uploading and not really having a clue as to what could this potentially be, but that persistence of just keep punching the bag and keep showing 100%. Up. And the same thing with you, just believing that they have what it takes, believing that they could sell out a nationwide tour, and then you get a taste of it. And I feel like that's all you need is it's like a domino effect. Once you stay consistent with something long enough, you get those small wins, and that just ends up adding more fuel to the fire, and you keep going, and then it's like you built a monster 5 years later.
Once you feel it, you're like, I need, you know what I mean? It's like you like feel it. That's another thing about this. Like I think anytime you do it, you fiend it. You know what I mean? And it's like I'm so obsessed with it that like I just think it's like that's what keeps you going. It's like you need more, you want to keep going. And I think it's just it's always kind of been like a small win thing, you know what I mean? No one's happened overnight, and and most things don't, but like really like what we're trying to build is like obviously just continuing a really good trajectory and building long-term careers and really really dedicated fan bases and being in business and being artists for decades, not having a moment and getting a quick cash grab and then like figuring out what's next.
Off of that, about building long-term careers, what, and not specifics, but like as a strategy, what's the best way to grow your artists to make sure that they build that loyal fan base and that people are still showing up and the numbers keep growing? Like what's the strategy or the mindset or the game plan for somebody like you?
I think first, it comes down to the music always,
of course.
And I think why I connect so much with all of my artists is I think what they're saying, you know what I mean? Like they all have messages. They're all saying stuff that people connect with. You know what I mean? Like I think you need to, you need to stand out. But I think the best way to stand out is to like write your own story in a sense. You know what I mean?
Truth.
Like right, exactly. And it's like you can't do that when you're getting. And look, do massive pop artists that don't write their own music have massive fans? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that though. You know what I mean? Like that's not really the business I want to be in. I think when you are saying stuff that's true to you and you're writing your own music and you're making music that connects with people, like that's like step one to like building a fan base is them connecting to the music. You know what I mean? And then from there I think it's feeding that base. You know what I mean? It's like we talk about this all the time in the office, but it's like just feeding the base and focusing on whatever number of fans you have and giving them more, because like your fans are your best asset. You know what I mean? Like you have people that are all over the world who feel super passionate about what you're doing or your music or whatever it is about you, and they'll drive that story. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it's not like, oh, use them and whatever. It's like, be genuine, all that. But like, realize that those people want you to win too, and like want to help you. You know what I mean? So I think that feeding the base and making sure that like you're focusing on that and not all of, kind of not the big thing, not making sure you have a hit or you're impressing this person or that person. It's like, feed the people that are connecting to the music. You know what I mean? They're going to find more people that connect to the music too. They're going to want to share that music.
They're going to be a salesperson for you. They're going to tell everybody in their city about you.
Anything that anyone is passionate about. Yeah. Like, I love my AirPods. So like, I will literally tell anyone that wants to listen about how much I love my AirPods. You know what I mean? It's anything. It's just like anything in any business.
Yeah. Apple needs to give me a cut for the amount of times I sell their AirPods, because people are like, how do you like them? I'm like, how long you got? I'll tell you everything I love about them.
Everything. I actually just lost mine, and I always keep backup.
I saw you had the regular cords.
So it's killing me. It's killing me. It's my 5th pair in the last probably 6 months.
Dude.
But the fact that it's like, I love them that much, I don't care. I'll keep buying them. You know what I mean? But it's like, to that point, it's like anything that you really... Yeah, I mean, anything that anyone is passionate about, they're going to want to, support and drive and tell all their friends about. So it's like, realize that those people are there to help support and help drive the narrative and tell the story with you. You know what I mean? And I always would ask fans, any show I go to and stuff, like, especially early on, because you want to figure out like where everyone's coming from. It's like, how do you find out about the music? Why are you at the show? Usually it's like, oh yeah, my friend, I actually don't know him, but my friend, not I should say usually, but it could be anything from, my friend played it for me on Spotify. My friend sent it to me here. I've gotten this a lot. Like I actually don't know this. My first time hearing the music, my friend told me I had to come.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like, you're bringing new fans to the show who are paying money to go see you.
Yeah.
It's like, they clearly care enough to, drive that.
They could be doing anything else tonight, but they decided to pay to come to see you.
Yeah. So, you see that shit and you're like, damn, who's that friend of yours that's, bringing 5 of you to the show and convincing you that even though you don't know the artist, you have to come see the show.
Yeah. See, what you're making it really sound like is, it's just about making use of what you've got, right? Like that's kind of like what I scream about my setup, my bedroom studio.
We were talking
it's
about
like,
before.
this is literally what I have to work with, so I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to try to be as professional as I can with the water bottle, with the logos on the cups, with the coasters, but I'm going to make it the best so that the little people, or the people that do pay attention, I hope they appreciate it. And then double down on them, or just try to figure out why do they like what I'm creating? Where can I improve? What do you want to see more of? And just connecting with people, because it's a word of mouth. There's no marketing, there's no advertisement, there's no billboard that you can put up that's going to be the same price as somebody that genuinely rocks with you and wants to talk about
100%. It. And you want to always find, it's like, you always want to find, and don't get me wrong, it's like getting that look or getting this exposure or getting something that, is like, putting you in front of a brand new audience is so important. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like, what you have in front of you with your fans is like, like you said, you make the best of what you have and work with what you have. It's like, having those people, that should always be the focus first and foremost, because those people actually care already, and the people that care are the ones that are going to, probably be with you forever. Yeah.
What do you think separates a good manager from a great manager?
I think a few things, and it's hard to say because I don't know where I fall in that category, but
we should have a call
being
in
like
with
the
Messiah
artist. And being, you know what I mean, being like, you're only good but you're great. No, but like, but looking at, like, I think it's
the characteristics.
I think caring and putting your artist first is like the number one thing. You know what I mean? For me at least, it's like putting the artist first. Doing right by your artist, you know what I mean? Like, I see so many things that I'm just like, you are totally in this for your own brand and your own self, and
very
all that.
Easy to read that
for
sometimes.
sure. Oh, always. I think it's super easy to read. Also, you know what I mean? I do.
It's like fuck bullshit.
And it's like, it's kind of like, and that's just not my vibe. It's not, any of my partners, and that was probably the initial thing we connected on, was like, that's just look. There's a million ways to win. That's not the way, it's just not my speed. But I think really like working really hard, being innovative, being creative, caring about the artist, putting the artist first, and always making the decision based on what's best for the artist. I think that's like the number one.
Because at the end of it, that's what matters, right? It's not necessarily going to be what's best for Jesse, but you're going to have to do things, probably make sacrifices that got to do it for myself, but I got to do for more so the artist.
And also it's like the best thing about management is like everything you do, like you only win when the artist wins. You know what I mean? So if you always think about the artist winning, you're going to win too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is awesome. It's like, you know, we're in a business where like everything that I can do, I can make a decision with that's great for somebody else and know that like I'm doing like, you know, and know that like by doing that and doing the right thing, I'm going to be good too. You know what I mean? Which is like really cool because I don't know that that's the case in every business. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's talk about this little partnership we got going on here. April 2018, at least it was announced. I would imagine this was probably in the works for quite some time before it gets announced. But you team up with Visionary Music Group. For people that are listening, that the two artists previously were Logic and Jon Bellion, absolute legends. Yes. I was at Jon Bellion's first show ever, SOB's New York City.
No way.
So I hold that to heart.
Dude, that's
if I ever meet Jon, I'm like, Jon, I was at
awesome.
that first show.
They talk about that show all the time, actually.
Legendary. Legendary. There was like 300 people
there. They said he
there.
rehearsed for like ever for that show. And I was like, and that's so, you know, like to like spend that much time on that. Like he took that so, and you have to do that. You know what I mean? But it's like the fact that he took that so seriously, you know?
Do you know what his next show was?
After that was probably, I'm just going to guess, it was either Gramercy or Irving.
He was in, or
was it
so I think that was his first show he ever performed.
Yeah.
His second show was in Europe, opening for Kanye West at a festival.
Oh, geez.
So you want to talk?
Did he do Wireless? Was it Verizon
Yes,
Wireless?
yes. So you want to talk about like
that's crazy.
From here to here? It's just epic.
That's crazy.
I love Logic, love Jon Bellion. But I love that in the article that I had read, Chris Zaru had said, the Jesse is one of the brightest, most forward-thinking young managers in the game. How did this partnership come together?
We met through my so Quinn's business manager and a close friend of mine, and who also represents Jon and Logic, and we met through him. I think initially when I first met him, and had brought, you know, we had started working with he had started working with Quinn. We were talking just, you know, one day or whatever, and he was like, you remind me a lot of Chris, of, you know, another one of my really close friends who manages Jon Bellion and Logic. And of course I knew who he was. I knew who he was. I obviously especially knew who the artists were. I actually was, when I had emailed.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were emailing him, right?
Yeah,
you were trying to get him in touch.
So I knew who he was. I was a huge fan of Quinn. Put me on to Jon like very early. It was one of those things where it was like, yo, you know, like what you're learning about the artist when you first meet, and it's kind of like, what, you know, who are you inspired by? What do you like? What do you listen to? All that. And I didn't know Jon at that time. I knew who Logic was because I went to Maryland. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't familiar. I didn't know Jon at that time. This was, you know, 5 years ago now. And he probably longer actually, but then so I got hip to it all and was like, he's like one of my favorite artists now.
If you like Jon Bellion, you're like a cult follower.
Absolutely.
If not, you're not a fan.
He's the biggest legend. He's amazing. God. Yeah. It's funny. I went to the show. What was it? Before Chris and I had met. It was Thanksgiving, I guess, 2016. I'd bought tickets. At this point, it's like, and I say this to be a dick, but it's like I don't really like, you know, go to shows where I have to buy tickets and all that. It's like whatever. I was like, this one, I'm like, I'm not hitting any agent. I'm not doing that. I'm like, I'm buying tickets to the show. They went on sale. I was like, this is such a such a crazy experience. I'm like,
check out and buy
right.
These
I'm like literally like I bought tickets. I bought 2 tickets. It was the weekend of Thanksgiving. I had no one to go with because everyone's out of town for the holidays. Yeah. And I just went alone. It was the first time I'd ever went to a concert alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not bad, right?
No, it was amazing.
That's the best time. I went to a John Mayer concert, so I know how it is. Solo
awesome.
dolo.
Yep. Yeah, it's great. It was great. You know, and it got to a point where I was like, you know what? No one's gonna appreciate it like I will anyway. Yeah. Like, so I'm just gonna go alone. You know. But yeah. So I always knew. So because of that, I got really familiar with what Chris was doing. I didn't know Chris obviously at the time when he was doing the Logic stuff, but then I became a really big fan of Jon's. Realized the whole Visionary thing and just became really like interested in what they did and like one of the things that I think everyone in any business in life or whatever should always do, but especially what I always did in music and management is like just watching what other people are doing and studying. You know what I mean? And that was always, you know, it's like we talked about this a second ago before this started, but like, you know, just studying stuff and stalking people and realizing, and it's like finding things that you like and then realizing how they did it and like how you can apply that to what you do. You know what I mean? So, I was doing that for a while. When I realized that like what they were doing, what Visionary Music Group was, and I just kind of took a lot of what they did or saw a lot of what they were doing and was like, I really like that. Why is what they're doing so different? What are they doing like that makes it different? And then, okay, cool, I'm going to use and, practice the same type of things.
What specifically? Is there one example?
So mostly really like the fan engagement thing. And I mean,
Logic, man, he built the Rat Pack.
Totally.
He was the first. I probably was onto Logic for 2 or 3 years before Jon.
Yeah.
And that Rat Pack, man, I remember he was doing shows in Providence.
Yeah.
Like those were the first shows he was doing. These people were committed to him.
Still to this day, doing the Garden and having the same committed fan base. It's crazy. That was the first time I had seen Logic, was the Garden show, and I was so blown away. It was like literally like I was like, what is happening? Like it's one of the craziest things ever. But yeah, so I just was like paying attention to that a lot, and so it's funny because when Josh was like, oh, you remind me a lot of Chris, I was like, in my head, I'm like, no shit, because like I watch, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at a lot of what he's doing, and like, and it's funny because then when Chris and I ended up meeting in Harrison, they were like, they were kind of like the same thing. They're like, I see what you're doing. We're a big fan. And
when was this? When did you guys first meet?
2017.
Oh, so this. Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the beginning of, or maybe late 16. Mm-hmm. And we were just like homies at first. We were like becoming friendly.
Organically.
But it was funny because obviously it was like, man, we really like think the same and all that. And I always say to them still, I'm like, yeah, it's like a lot of that is because I was watching what you guys had done, and I was like, I really respect and like what you're doing, and I'm gonna figure out take the great things that I really attach to and try to do them also, and try to make them even better, or try to, you know what I mean? Like you take and apply, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was really the reason why, you know what I mean? They're like, how unique it is. And in my head, I'm like, it's really not unique at all. Like I just did,
I've been
studying, you know what I mean? So,
I know everything about you guys.
Like, I totally. And that's, I do. Like, I know their touring cycles and all that stuff. And yeah, so that was really like, that was how we met. And then, the relationship, like, at the time I was on my own. I had, obviously my 4 artists, and I wasn't really, I knew it was getting really, really busy. I knew I had to like scale the business in some sense. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And, we came up with just a really unique situation, and it took forever. Like you were saying, when it announced in April, I'm laughing because I'm like, we actually started Jan 1, but it was a while before that like, I was only going to do something that was really, that was specific. Like I felt I was only going to do something really specific as far as how I wanted it done. Yeah. And they've never worked on anything else, or
they were very strict, right?
Just
Jon and
the
Logic. That was
so
it.
They, similarly, it was like it had to make sense for them, and and then we figured it out, and then January 1 we started really like all working together. I brought everyone kind of under that umbrella, and we had like the whole team working across everything. I only work obviously still on my floor, but
you guys are in the same office in New York now, though.
And the whole team works across, all mine, so it's great. But so we started January 1. It took a while, finding our cadence and all that stuff. It's like a totally new thing. Yeah. For both of us, for all of us. And then April is when we like made it public, and now it's you like learn a lot in those first few months and figure it out, and you still do even now. You know what I mean? It's just you're working with people. You know what I mean? So like you're working with people in the sense that like you're working with new people as far as we are working together, which is new. But we're also working with they're working with new people in the sense of the artists and all that. Yeah, and this is like a business of people. So. So we made like amazing strides over the first like 6 months, and then from there it was just like hitting the ground running. Yeah,
it's crazy too, because like once you get a because you guys are all have this essential end goal that's very similar with your artists, like turn them into the stars that they should be, build it from the ground up, very genuine. But then I would imagine now just having the resources and having them as a point of contact of not just a friend anymore, now a business partner, I would imagine that might take a little bit less stress off of your shoulders because you have somebody to lean on. As before, it was probably just like
totally,
it's just you.
I mean, down to like yes. I mean, it's funny because like the stress, no, because you're always gonna have the stress because you care so much, and no matter how big the team is, or no matter how big the artists are, no matter how much success you're having, or no matter how little success you have, whatever it is, I think if you like genuinely care, the stress is always gonna be the same. You know what I mean? Because it's like. It's funny. It never like, and it was never intended. Like having doing the partnership and like working with new people and all that. It was never intended on like making my life easier
Oh,
or
yeah, of
giving all
course.
that.
Yeah, of
It was
course.
more so intended on giving more to the artists and knowing that like that as things were growing, I just couldn't do it all myself. You know what I mean? So, so stress, nah. But like, as far as everything else and having a team and people to lean on and partners and great, amazing, like the most talented, amazing people that I get to work with is like that is, definitely makes the job better and more fun. And I think ultimately like, helps everyone in the end goal and all that. So
You're out on the West Coast right now doing some business. You were out here back in December. I know we talked about it earlier. You said you're out here like every 6 weeks, and then summertime you stay in New York, which makes sense because the weather's great. Finally. What's like your day-to-day routine look like? Are you on the phone a lot? Is it mostly emails?
Everything.
Everything.
Super different every day. You know what I mean? Like it some days I may not have one meeting and I may be in the office and may be like in front of my computer all day, which I like because those are like, I feel like, everything's like everything you do is productive in a different way. You know what I mean? So like those are the ones where it's like, okay, I can go sort of home and feel like, I could sleep better knowing that like my emails are, kind of clear and everyone's in a good place and that day and everything's like, kind of is being handled. And then there's other days where you're in meetings all day or you're with the artists and then, like you're going home and then having to still catch up on emails and all that or calls or whatever.
Yeah.
So it really, it just varies by the day. You know what I mean?
Are you stepping in a lot on the creative process for the artists, like with their projects and like
always.
rollout and tours?
Yeah, always. That's like the biggest thing, you know what I mean? I think for us. And I think when you work with artists from the beginning, they all have really, really strong visions. But I think when you work with the artists, like obviously Jeremy, like I said, had put out some music and had been growing, but like for Chelsea, Quinn and ayokay, it was literally from like the first single. But even for Jeremy, it was still obviously like early enough where you can like you learn a lot about their vision and how to kind of like be a part of that in a sense, you know what I mean, and like help execute that. I think you do that a lot better when you're there from day one, you know what I mean.
Of course.
Because of that,
before any success,
totally, because it's like we're building that to get, you know what I mean, we're sitting in there,
we have the blueprint.
Forever trying to think of like what the Quinn branding was going to be. We went through so many different things and finally like one thing clicked, but like being in that together and knowing what worked and what didn't work and all that, I can run on like, we just came from a meeting, like a merch meeting, and just kind of designing all of the merch, and it was like, I could go and fill in on that stuff, or like he doesn't necessarily have to look at everything. It's like, right, at the end of the day, it's like we kind of like see, and obviously we'll disagree on certain designs and stuff like that, and ultimately it's his call at the end of the day, but like he certainly lets me kind of do and roll with a little bit of that creative stuff and trusts that I know what he wants because we were in that from day one together. So with everyone it's like that, you know what I mean? So it helps because I love being a part of that, you know what I mean? And I want to always be a part of like the artist journey from the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really have interest in like
jumping
bringing
in
on
the
something
middle way.
that's like already massive because they make money, you know what I mean? Like the entrepreneur in me is like wants to build something from like the ground up, you know?
What's been, and I'm not saying this the most proud moment, but what have been some of the more bigger victories in your mind, or just like, I don't know, proud moments, I guess?
I think being where I am in the sense that like career-wise, like being where I am in the place that like right now, really, you know what I mean? Where it's like I work with 4 amazing people. I work with a great team as well, but like as far as the artists, like I have 4 incredible artists. I believe in all of them. Their careers are all going in the right direction. They're moving, and they're just really, really great people that like are family. You know what I mean? So it's like that to me is like the biggest win, because it's like if you're winning in your professional life but it makes you miserable, then like what does that do for your personal life? You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that like I'm fortunate where we're seeing success and it's making me happy in my personal life, not because we're seeing success but because I love what I'm doing. I mean that's like incredible. And I think also like not a specific thing. I mean, you have your proud moments where you look around like certain shows or certain accolades or whatever that you get, and you're kind of like, damn, this is really cool. Like I never thought, you know what I mean, that like somebody would be there exactly, or like in a billboard, like stuff like that. But which is all really cool. But like then I think also just like not even again in like a specific moment, but like. Because I think that's every day, you know what I mean? When you're like just really happy and like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is, that kind of doesn't get old. But also I think like the biggest thing, another big thing I should say is like knowing that what I do now is like also we can help people, you know what I mean? Like it makes the business and our job's so much cooler that like, you know, I'll get messages and you get the things that people will make for them, fans will make and give them at shows, and it's like really, really deep shit about like how they saved their lives or how they got them through something and all that. And that's really dope because like, it's funny, when I went into the business, my dad and brother are veterinarians, and like, so they help people for a living. You know what I mean? Like, we walk around town and we'll see a client at a dinner and they'll be like, or at a restaurant, and they'll be like, your dad saved my my dog, and like saved my, like, you know, it's like my family's hero. And it was like that, you know, is so amazing, and to be able to do that for a living is awesome. And like, I always kind of feared that like being in music, I wasn't gonna be able to do that. You know what I mean? So the fact that like now you see that and you're like, man, I'm being like, I can do what I love. I'm working in music, but I'm also really helping people. And like, it's funny, in my head, I always, cause I overanalyze everything and stuff, but like in my head, I always thought that like, I was like, you know what, I could do this and I'll like volunteer or do some, like, I'll do other things to like, you know, give back and like, you know what I mean? Make people happy and all that. And then when I started seeing that like all this stuff clicked and you started seeing like all the things that all the impact you were having for other people, it was like, I get to do that too. You know what I mean?
That's just like a
totally. It was like
on top.
huge, and you go to shows, it's like emotional. Like I'm sitting there like getting emotional. You know what I mean? And like you'll see, you know, like people react a certain way or cry when they get to meet them, or they'll tell them like the craziest, deepest stuff and how they've done so much. It's like it's a lot to handle. I mean, in a great way, but it's like a lot to handle for the artist. I get like, you know what I mean? So like emotional over it. You know?
I just watched, I mean, I'm very familiar with all of your artists, but I go into these weird rabbit holes when I'm about to have somebody like yourself. I'm just digging into everything. Even the artists, I'm just trying to get the vibe and just make sure I'm like in tune with everything. But I had just watched Jeremy's All the Kids Are Depressed music video. Man.
I cried when I watched that.
Oh.
Yeah. It's so good.
That's real stuff, man. It's just like when you can see an artist like that, or somebody that can take what they love and really kind of give back to the world. I don't know. It's just something about that inside me that just is like, man, they don't have to do that. He could have just made a music video in LA with the top down, driving around Cali, but to get fans to tweet at him, once again, incorporating the fan base, get fans to tweet at him their stories, and then go out and shoot a music video telling the stories of kids that have been depressed and that are going through something in their life and incorporate that to them, man. It's like,
it was really, that was like, and that he had such a strong vision for that video, and they shot it actually in Colorado. He was still in college at the time. It was in the spring. He just graduated this past May.
Oh, he just
graduated.
Wow,
so he like signed a record label.
He's 22
signed
right
to
now?
a record label, all that. Yeah, he's 22. He signed to Republic when he was going into his senior year. Still finished school. He was
under you at that
biochem
time,
major.
though, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was I basically started around the time when the Republic deal was being done.
Got you.
So that was summer 2017. And then that first year, like that was going to his senior year. So his senior year, he was touring, you know, putting out music through the label, and that was what, you know, eventually All the Kids Are Depressed came under, like that, you know, while he was in college, and was still in school while I was doing that. I was a biochem major, like pre-med. I mean, he just had the craziest work ethic ever. I still can't believe it. Like, none of us thought we would like that. None of us thought that he would pull it off, and we would be, you know what I mean, able to do as much as,
like, is Jeremy gonna really?
Because we knew he was gonna finish school, you know what I mean. But I think the goal was like, if we can, you know, kind of keep this progressing while you're still finishing school, because like if that's, it was important to him, so that's like important to me. It's like, you know, you're gonna finish school then, if that's, you know what I mean. Like, I'm not gonna
tell you to drop out
or put you in a position where it makes it harder. You know what I mean. But if we can also, but I know how much being an artist means to you. So if we can continue to do both of those things successfully to the point where like you are continuing to progress while you finish school, then that was, you know, a home run. And we always look back and like laugh, for like, you know, me and him and his A&R and everyone on the team are just like, I can't believe that like all worked out. But anyway, that video was shot in Colorado, at Colorado College, where he was. He had a super specific vision for it, and then we went through, and he had, you know, this amazing director, Drew Kirsch, who we work with a lot, who shot 2 of Quinn's videos and has become like a homie of ours. And he went out there with, you know, and they spent like 5 days there, and they got a bunch of people, and I wasn't there for the shoot, but they did an incredible job. And then we just spent so much time And so I didn't know like the stories and stuff when I first watched it, and then when I saw it like the first rough, I was just like, oh my god, this is so amazing. And then you see the comments and stuff, and it's like it genuinely helps people. You know what I mean? And like that like you said, you don't have to do that. You can make it aesthetically pleasing, and have it be some top down LA
in Cali or something.
You know what I mean? Make it seem like your life is so much better than everybody's and all that. But like
it sounds like it's more of like a true fulfillment for him, where it's like he's making the music for, I'm sure, his own message and way to speak to the world, but then to even then really incorporate something like that, it becomes even more where people are like, damn, I really connect with this.
And the whole thing is, you're not like the monologue at the beginning, it's like you're not alone, you know what I mean? That's the whole point, is and then you see a flood of comments of people like telling their stories, and you're like, damn, and that's the point, you know what I mean, is to make it not seem like that whoever else is watching it that goes through that stuff is the only person, and then they feel enough comfort to express whatever that is, you know what I mean, in the comments, where they actually are able to say, you'll read a comment where it's like, I've never been able to say this, but you know what I mean, and it's like, wow, you were able to get that across because you watched this. That's amazing.
It's pretty. I think a lot of times we just see numbers, or we see like people just commenting, right? And we like forget like that's like a human being. I'm not saying you do, but I think the majority of us forget like that's one person, like that's somebody out there in this world putting out their life or saying whatever. So I've even taken it into I feel it is my responsibility now too, as a creator, of like, don't always just talk about the highs and all the high energy, like talk about some real shit. Totally. Like your content doesn't have to be sad and low and like depressing, but it can be real. Right. And I think it's extremely important to be authentically you and just tell your truth and be open to the conversation. I think the world we're getting in is with the internet is it's opening up more conversations, and people feel a lot more comfortable to talk about the things that they never want to talk about before.
And it goes back to, again, like what we were saying, like, how do you build a family? You know what I mean? It's like, say something that other people will connect with. Like, Chelsea, when she went on her last tour, she had just excuse me, she had just went through a breakup, and she went on stage and would talk about it, like really like, talk. And I'm like, that's hard to talk to about with like somebody face to face. You know what I mean? And would go and do stuff like that, and you're like, like I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? And it's amazing that they're, each of them are able to do that. You know what I mean? And that's it's important, but it's not always easy. But like, I think that's what people gravitate to. It's like anyone, that's why I become a fan of artists and things, because, I connect with them, or I appreciate what they're saying, or appreciate why they're opening up about themselves. And I realize that, like, whatever they're going through, maybe I am too,
Yeah. And you never, and that's the other thing too. It's like, you don't really fully understand what somebody's going through. Like it's so hard to sometimes connect with people, or like, be like, well, I don't understand, why are they still like so caught up on X, Y, and Z? But it's like, you don't understand to the length of how something can mentally affect somebody. Totally. So it's kind of just, I don't know. It's hard. You can't compare yourself and think like, well, I would have gotten over that by now. It's like everybody has their own process of getting through something. You kind of have to respect it. And I mean, try not to offend anybody,
Especially, I think, in dealing with artists, that's like definitely as a manager, like not a challenge, but it's something you have to constantly remind yourself, is like, you're dealing with people, you know what I mean? And you care about the people. So you want to, sometimes you're in this balance of like, you always want to make sure that they're good and okay, and they have to be okay. You know what I mean? First, like, you put the business and all the other stuff aside. So it's like, that's what you have to make sure you're doing for them. You know what I mean? You're responsible for a part of their life. You know what I mean? And then you're also responsible for progressing their careers and helping them achieve their dreams, and their goals. So it's like, you have to be able to understand, like, when somebody might not want to do something, it's like, it's easy for me to be like, dude, that's easy to do. You know what I mean? Or like, why are you still not over this or whatever? You know what I mean? But it's like, you have to understand other people and be able to be like, just because that doesn't really bother me. Yeah. If it bothers them, then we got to figure out a way to fix that so that they're not bothered. Or,
Did you ever watch the Avicii True Stories documentary on Netflix?
Chelsea was watching the other night, and we were texting about it, but I need to.
You got to watch it. I know. Because exactly what you just said is what you're going to see in that documentary. Because it's like, I mean, obviously now knowing what happens in the end, it's easy to watch and be like, well, you should have known it was going to happen or something bad was going to happen. But it's like, there are so many red flags of like, mentally, this is not the best decision for the person. But once again, business. Well, we need you to perform. We booked you 50 shows, and
that's scary. It like kills me because I've heard obviously all about it.
Yeah.
I've heard, like, I know a bunch of like the scenes where it's like that. It's like kills me. And
you don't think
really
it's gonna
watch
happen.
it, but
you
no,
don't think it's gonna happen.
Of course, and I'm not saying they're saying that they were bad people.
Yeah.
But you have to always want. You know what I mean? It's like, again, they're human beings, and they work really hard. Artists do stuff that no one else can do. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to understand that that's the case.
Yeah.
And you can't. You have to make sure that, like with anyone, you just have to make sure people are good. You know what I mean? And they're okay, and that, like, you know, and everyone's guilty of it. You know what I mean? You with your friends, you might not be like, you know, you might be giving them shit one day about something, or why they didn't come with you here or whatever. And, you know, not think about the fact that maybe there's something really wrong. You know what I mean? But you have to really do, especially in the position I'm in or any manager, it's like you really have to be conscious about that. And even sometimes like read into things a little bit more than you normally would, because like not everyone's always going to say it. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to be able to like pick up on those things to the best you can, you know what I mean? And always focus on that and make sure that you're like, that all of that is okay. You know what I mean? So that they can, and they're in a position to do whatever else they need to do for their career. You know? If
you had to go back and give the young Jesse that was trying to get into the management one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
I guess believe in yourself and like work really hard. And yeah, like, same thing, just like do right by people. You know what I mean? Do right by like people that you're working with, do right by your artists, just do right by anyone. You know what I mean? That's really like the biggest things. And I wouldn't say that in the sense that I didn't know that now, but like that's what I would say to anyone. You know what I mean? I think that's what that's just like how I've always been. Yeah. And I'm not sitting here saying like I'm the nicest person and I'm not, like, I've never done something wrong. You know what I mean? Like that. But I would say like for sure, if I like any time that I wasn't, it never benefit. You know what I mean? It was never good. You know what I mean? Like it just, you never like really win that way, you know? Probably
believe in yourself.
And do right
by other people. It goes a long way too when you're doing, like, it's so much easier to say it now, right? Believe in yourself. People might be like, well, Jesse's already successful, he's already done it, but it's like you still have to imagine that he came from somewhere that wasn't that, like, where you are today, you know? Like it took
even
a long
now
time.
It's like I still think about stuff all the time and I'm like, I can't, you know what I mean, do that. I'm not sitting here saying that I always am that way, you know what I mean? But like I think you have to believe in yourself because you're also in charge of other people's careers. And like, if you don't believe in yourself, then why would somebody else? You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to convince somebody else to believe in me to be in charge of their careers? If I don't believe in what I'm doing either, you know what I mean? And same thing goes to like being a good person. If I'm not doing right by people, why would they trust me and want to be, you know, work with me? You know what I mean? And I
heard a really good quote from Kobe Bryant the other day when I was listening to this podcast, and it goes back to believing in yourself. And he said, we all have our own little puzzle in front of us. We just have to figure out how to play those pieces. We all have separate little pieces of puzzle, but you can still paint that picture. You can still put that together. You just kind of have to figure out for yourself.
Yeah, it was literally, you took about something like figuring it, like, because I figured it out as I went along. You know what I mean? I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you like, and I'm not, it's funny because when we joke about it, like me, Quinn, and ayokay, like, because really from when I pivoted to what I was doing in management to this, it was like I was in a new world in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like figuring out who everyone was and, you know, all this stuff in kind of the music business. And I was like starting from scratch in a lot of ways. So it was like, you know, I was just doing it and kind of like figuring it out as I went. You know what I mean? There's no like handbook to management. There's nothing like that. So it's like, in order to like really figure it out, you have to believe that you can. You know what I mean? Because like it's not something that you can just like call somebody and be like, hey, how do I do this? Or like go get your license for. You know what I mean?
One thing I'm trying to get better at is just living my life 24 hours at a time. And what's that small win today that I can get and then worry about the next win tomorrow? Like, I know my win for the day was this podcast. Great. This is all I need. And I'm like, Awesome. The rest of the day, I'm just going to figure it out. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to figure out a new win. And that win could be just getting an email back from somebody or scheduling a podcast or maybe getting any type of love or whatever it might be. But it's just like, just focus on the 24 hours at a time because it's so overwhelming when you think about the big picture and like, dude, I want to be touring the world. I want to be doing this, but I haven't even launched my first song. Like you have to just 24 hours at a time.
That's a big one I should have said also. Definitely small wins because you know, I know I said it before. It's like, because now I kind of figured it out. But again, it's like in any business, it's so easy with social media now, and especially, you know what I mean? And like, I'm not sitting here saying that like everyone flexes and puts the great things up and all that.
You have to show it, your resume.
But like, it's so easy. Again, I know I said it before, but it's so easy to get caught up in like who else is having a moment. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you do that, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. I think really you're gonna have a lot of trouble like satisfying yourself. You know what I mean? Because everyone's situation is different. Yeah. And even that could be from artist to artist, and in you know that certainly goes from personal life, but it could even go down to just two people doing the exact same thing with the exact same job. But you know, the situations could be different, you know, or those can mean different things to different people. So it's like really making sure that you're not looking at everything else and forgetting or being distracted by that. Yeah. And I think if you really do put your head down and you're right, focus on small wins every single day. Yeah. You know, you're then you're like kind of in control of your own path. You know,
I give you the music my hat off because there is so much more strategy for like rolling things out, and you know, right now maybe there's another artist that's comparable and they're on this nationwide tour right now, and you're just like trying to play out like, okay, the project's gonna drop in 6 months, we gotta wait 6 months. Meanwhile, I'm over here as a podcast, I'm like run and gun, like we're just dropping.
It's anything and whatever anyone does. You know what I mean? It's never easy. It's never easy. You know. And what you're doing is amazing, and you're literally doing it on your own. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it's a different space. Like I couldn't do what you do. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the space. I couldn't.
You could if you put your mind to it though.
I guess I'm being a hypocrite if I said I couldn't.
You might have the next big artist. I'd be a
hypocrite if I said believe in yourself and then I said I couldn't.
Podcast, right? 2020, I'm going to see you come rolling out with a pod.
I'd be a hypocrite if I said that after I said believe in yourself. But it's hard, man. And you know, like you said, if you focus on small wins and all that, then then you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And you're going to wake up one day and be like, oh my God, all these small wins ended up being this. You know?
That's what fires me up just from seeing Visionary, because I saw that from the very beginning, not the very, very beginning, but when Logic was kind of just a Northeast artist to now. So it's like, I'm just trying to replicate like the same work ethic, the same consistency. Like that's a great example. I'm not even in the music industry, but it's like just seeing other people win and just seeing the steps that they took. It's like, man, you just take the same formula, you add it to your little gig or your passion, and you're going to get there eventually. You're going to wake up one day and boom, you're going to be the place that you always dreamed of being.
Totally. And it's amazing because it's like it's the right way to build it. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't come right away. You know what I mean? So it's like you look at somebody like Logic who did it over years and they continue doing it and they never, you know, it's like I look at that and you know, again, going back to just being drawn to what they were doing, it's like you look at those types of things and you're like, those are the people that are going to be here forever because it took, you know, what do they say? As fast as it comes up, it comes down. Or, you know, so it's like you put in a time, and it's funny actually. I was watching a interview with G-Eazy the other day, and he said something about like enjoying the process as much as the results, and it's so true because it's like, you know, you spend so much time in the process, to get to where you want to be. If you don't enjoy the road and the ups and downs and the shitty parts of it and all that, you probably won't get to the you know, the end. But yeah, like you have to enjoy the whole process of it, you know. So
what's that say right there?
There you go. Hell yeah. Can you get me one of these? I want one of those.
That's my mother's handwriting, but I'll tell her to get another one through.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah, the journey is the reward. Dude, she gave me this bracelet back in August.
That is amazing, dude. That is, I mean, that's the best way to say it. The journey is the reward. Yeah. You know, it really, really is.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah. I try to wear it as often as I can to let it be a reminder, but it's very easy sometimes for me to get caught up in my day-to-day grind or like little setbacks here and there, and you kind of lose that focus. But then Sometimes I feel like I gotta get it.
I was just gonna say that is the best tattoo.
Dude, that is right on the wrist. I'll see it every single day.
I was just gonna say that. That is, I mean, that is the journey.
The journey is
5
the reward.
words, whatever that was just a way to sum it up.
Yeah, 5 words.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the journey is reward. It's not easy, but I definitely think it's important to try to remind yourself, even in the times where it's like smirking at the low moments. Right. You know, just like, this is gonna pick me back up. What are you most grateful for today? In general, this doesn't have to be music.
I just got engaged.
Congrats. Sometimes, so that's the thing. Sometimes I don't ever want to jump on somebody's outside life, but I saw you had it. Congrats, man. That's amazing. I never hide that.
That's amazing. So, so I just got engaged.
Well, you're nervous getting on the knee, dude? I would be shaking.
It's fun. I was nervous the second. God. So the way it happened was like basically I won't get into the whole details, but she was basically. We weren't together. So like most people, you know, she was meeting me, going somewhere that I was.
Okay.
So it's different. It's a different process than like when you're, you know, some people are together all day and then they go somewhere together and then they do it. Mm-hmm. So it's both are different. I think it's actually, so I think
it's easier meeting someone there.
Exactly.
Because you're not thinking about it.
I wasn't nervous. Like all day I was more like, all right, I got a plan. I got to get all this stuff ready. I got to pick up this and that and make sure the whole plan is right. So I was distracted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't there making sure that like I wasn't saying the wrong thing. So, so I wasn't really nervous until basically it was done. Like I did it in a hotel. So when she got there, I had told like she had to go get the room key from the reception from the front desk. I wasn't supposed to be there. It was a work thing. So when they called up, I said, you know, when she gets the key, you have to call up so I could like, you know, get in my position and all that. And it was like the elevator ride up was like the longest. It was probably only 45 seconds, but it was like the longest 45 seconds ever. So that's when it kicked in. The whole day everyone's like, you nervous? I'm like, nah, I got this. You know what I mean? And then that whatever amount of time it was, I was really nervous.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Man, that's gotta be a great moment too of like everything seems like the business life is going good. You have something like that, a significant other that you find is the one, like everything just kind of seems like it just falls into place with time.
I'm super, super lucky. You know, I really am. So everything is great.
What's her name?
Becca.
Shout out to Becca.
Yeah.
Shout out to Becca.
Yeah.
Shout out to Becca.
Yeah.
What's your definition of success?
Happiness. For sure.
So what's your definition of happiness then? What's happiness to Jesse?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. I mean, happiness is having being happy with your life and what you're doing and the people around you. And, I mean, happiness, I think is being, I think it's achieving the things you want to achieve. And that's not like a financial thing or anything like that. It's like feeling accomplished, you know? And knowing that you have good people around you and that you've been able to do good for other people. It's like as simple as that.
Do you remember the last time you ever woke up and you had like a weight on your chest or you're overwhelmed? Have there been any of those moments where happiness doesn't seem
I mean, definitely, but not that I like point out as far as something. No, I mean, you have like those, you know, fight or something that, you know, you feel like somebody might be mad or, you know, you might like feel like, I don't know, your parents are upset about something or whatever, stuff like that.
Smaller things.
Yeah.
What's one one weakness you'd like to see yourself work on?
Probably being in the moment. For sure. Like I am on my phone. This is probably the longest I haven't touched my phone, literally. So you've achieved that for me.
I pushed you. I love that.
You've done the impossible.
I love that.
Literally.
You can't do that, Jeremy. You can't do that, Quinn. Nobody.
It's crazy. Like, yeah, but I think that is it's funny because even they'll be like, dude, I'm here with you. Like I'm the work. I'm telling you to put your phone down. You know what I mean? And obviously Becca will say that the most, but definitely, being present and in the moment because, I spend a lot of time like thinking about work and stuff and on my phone and, you know, social media like everyone else and everything. So, putting my phone down and being in the moment.
I would bet even in the big moments or even like the bigger shows, there's all this hype, there's all this build, and then it kind of comes and it probably just goes by quick because you're still working, you still got to make sure everything's running, and it's like, holy shit, we just
definitely
did this festival, or we just did this show, or
it goes fast. I try to be really like it's funny. I hate when people come to like my artist shows and they're just like want to talk to you, and I'm like, yo, I worked so hard for the show to happen. I want to enjoy this. You know what I mean? I hide like anywhere that I can, and it's hard because it's like everyone comes and they expect, you know, whether it's clients or people or you know, people you work with on your team and all that, or family or friends. And I'm always like, I didn't come here to like, I came here to watch and enjoy like what we just worked so hard for. You know what I mean? So I try to hide out when I'm at shows and take in the moment for a little bit on those for sure. But in general, you know what I mean? Just like being present and putting my phone down.
That's kind of what we had started this podcast, like saying like, I don't mean it like this, but I love the past 115 guests, but there's no moment I'm more focused on than now, because that's just something I've tried to get much better at in the last like 2 years of just like enjoy the moment, enjoy the journey, like just enjoy these moments because it goes by quick and you're going to leave here. This is going to get produced. It's going to get put out, and it's just going to become one of those moments that happened and was in the past, but it's like just trying to make the best of the moment is extremely important. And for all the people that go to these shows, you better leave Jesse alone. Yeah. He's trying to enjoy it, all right? Leave this guy alone. Leave this guy alone.
Any other time, sure. I love talking to everyone and stuff, but during the show,
leave this guy alone. Unless you have some AirPods, give him the AirPods.
Exactly.
Leave him alone. What do you, big picture, what do you think Jesse's purpose is? What do you think you represent?
It's really tough. I think inspiring. I don't know. I mean, I think, like leaving a good impact on other people. You know what I mean? Whether it's like my clients, my family, Becca, whatever. Like just being pleasant to like be around and like, you know what I mean? Give people moments of you know, that they can remember that they find good in, you know what I mean? I think like, I mean, I want to like have massive, you know, success and be able to like, you know, have a company that everyone looks at and is like, this is, you know, all that stuff. And of course like, have a lot and do a lot of other things outside of management and whatever, probably some actually, but yeah, I think definitely just on the more basic, like, yeah. You know,
to be a good person.
Yeah. And just like be able to leave people with like memories that they appreciate and are like happy about and whatever.
Yeah. And that seems very true just by I could tell just from this podcast and kind of just the people that you've built yourself around. I don't know. There's just something that I could just tell from the energy, and maybe it's paying attention to their music. It's maybe more so knowing the music and knowing there's something about this team. There's something about these people that it's very unique and special. Whatever you guys have going on, man, it's good. It's
Thank you.
It's more than just numbers on Spotify. It's more than selling out tours. It's more than merch. Like I genuinely believe that all of your artists and you as well are doing it for the right reason. And I'm big on the why. That to me has been something I'm very proud of all the people that I've had on the show. I genuinely believe the why of what they're doing is because they want to succeed in that. It's not really like, of course we want money. Of course we want cars, houses, the whole shebang. But like, I genuinely believe in people that are doing things for the right reason. And I really sincerely believe that you guys are all doing things for the right reason. And it's inspiring to a lot of people.
I appreciate that. That's
very inspiring.
It's true. So it's amazing when people see that, you know what I mean? And appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know? So thank you.
Yeah.
And likewise, you know, I like what you're doing is amazing because you're focusing on, you know, on how to basically give other people stuff to learn from and inspire them and all that, which is really, really awesome.
Crazy at the end of the day, man, because it ends up being a platform that gives me an opportunity to network with people like you who I'm interested in meeting. I'm getting to learn a lot. There's takeaways from this that I'm going to incorporate into my life. And then it's like the last is that I get to package this and put this out there to the world and somebody can listen. I don't know how many people will see it. It doesn't really matter, but I know that there's going to be one person that's going to be like, I learned this, I learned that. I get a DM. There's priceless. And the fact that, like I told you before we started the podcast, I had DMs already. yo, can't believe Jesse's coming on the podcast. I'm
so
just
crazy,
like,
right?
what? It's so crazy.
I don't believe it, but
it's so crazy.
But no, and I mean, even just the way you talk, you know what I mean? The way you talk and the way you ask things and the way you think about things is very, you know, you could tell that's, you know, how you feel and kind of like your goal and that you're doing it for the right reasons and stuff too. And like, you know, going back to kind of like, excuse me, when I was saying just about like how good it is to make other people, you know, whether it is that one person or whatever, but how good it is to see that message or whatever, you know, it's no different here with you. So.
Exactly. Before I get into the closing questions, this is when I reverse the role. I allow the guests to ask me any one question. 2 rules: can't be a question that I asked you already today. And 2, it can't be directly about the podcast. Any one question.
Well, that's tough. Then I was gonna say, what was the biggest thing you've learned from somebody else? Because I feel like that's the obvious, you know. But does that apply to this?
What was the question?
Like, what is the biggest thing that you've learned from not even necessarily from somebody that's been on, but what's the biggest thing that you learned actually from somebody that's been on?
Yeah.
Like, what was your biggest takeaway? I don't know if that applies to the.
No. We'll run with it. I mean, man, honestly, it's like the biggest lesson, and it really, it's hard for me to select a certain guest because they all have proven this of having a vision and literally just finding a way to make it happen. That's literally every single guest that I've had. That's what this is all about. Like having the vision and executing it and not giving a shit what other people have to say, like believing in yourself. It ends up like all these podcasts end up being just reminders for me to just literally keep going. Like this is just more fuel to the fire for me. To stay consistent, to know that in the long run this is all gonna play out, that none of this is gonna happen overnight. Like all the cliches that people hear, it's like it's a cliche because it's true,
right.
And people say it so many times, which makes it cliche, and so you're like, oh yeah, that's what everyone says, but it's actually true. And so for me, it's just been keep punching the bag, keep showing up, don't stop, and that persistence and consistency over a long period of time, it's just gonna bloom. And my biggest problem and something that I've always struggled with growing up is my patience. But I have also realized too that anytime I've had my eyes on the prize for a goal, I've found a way to make it work. This just so happens to be the first thing in my life that is gonna take a long time. That's gonna take persistence and showing up on a weekly basis. But just through all these guests, like we've heard today, like all the guests I've had in the past, and I keep looking to the left. That's why I like having the rack there because I can see they're like looking back at me. It's just like all these people come from different backgrounds, different childhoods, different stories, but they found a way. They found a way to make it work. And so that ends up being probably the big overall takeaway. I hate to not specifically pick a specific person.
I want to put you on the spot.
But then they're like, oh, well, you called this person out. What do you mean? You didn't give me a shout out? You didn't give me a shout out? But that ends up being the big takeaway. It's just like, you just got to do it. And that's what this podcast is all about. Like, I'm going to find my way through this world of whatever I'm trying to create. And I just hope that people hear it and they just replicate it into their life. Just like what you were saying earlier about visionary. You saw what they were doing. You replicated it, got you to where you are today. It's the same thing I've been just doing all along. All different stories, different backgrounds, artists, DJs, producers, entrepreneurs. They're all different, but it still is the same formula. Right. And just replicating into my life. So
there you go.
That to me has been, I guess, the biggest overall lesson for it. Closing questions. Where can people find you on social media and mutual friends if they don't know who Jesse is?
My full name, Jesse Coren. I'm only on Instagram.
Okay.
I don't do Twitter or anything like that.
Just Instagram.
Tough. Yeah, I wish I did Twitter, not to tweet, but just because I feel like I'd consume.
Yeah, well, you'd be consuming more content.
Like more important news. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like hard.
Debatable.
That's like yeah. Well, I guess yeah, but it's like I can get rid of the pictures on. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes on news and all that. Well. At least for some of the stuff that I follow, but yeah, Jesse Coren on Instagram, and then mutual friends also only on Instagram because I just run it, and it's really just a collection of like cool things that they're all doing. It's a good platform to put everything in one. Yeah. And trying to like emphasize again the community aspect of it and stuff. But I run it so it's like I don't I don't have that focus. So
Yeah.
it's not totally active. I want to get someone else to build on it. And then obviously Team Visionary is all the Visionary socials. So those
are the social medias.
Those are all of them.
Before I ask the final question, I've already said it multiple times, but I can't say it enough. Thank you for taking the time to come in here today.
It's my first podcast.
Let's
Best
go.
one. Let's go. Yeah,
Let's
man.
go.
Thank you.
It's just been great to see. To keep it short, it's been great to see the success.
Thank you.
You guys, everyone, Visionary, yourself, all your artists, you inspire people like myself and everybody that's listening.
Thank you.
And so I'm just extremely excited to see where you guys go.
It
feels great to just have established a relationship with you because, like I said, it's been great to see the journey. And I appreciate you coming in and taking the time to tell the story because you got a lot of shit going on,
Thank you, man.
You're a busy person.
We're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this quarterly.
Well, we got a bigger pod coming.
We do.
That group pod. I'm not gonna say anything else.
Now that I'm like good, I told you, Mike, I could talk about this shit all day to anyone who will listen. Yeah. So anytime you want me to come here and talk.
I am so big on timing. Before I ask the final question, I gotta add this on too. Timing is super important, man. And I honestly we were supposed to do a group pod, and I'm not gonna tell you guys and gals who the group pod is with, but know we got something brewing. That was supposed to happen in December, didn't happen. Then it was supposed to happen this week, didn't happen. And then knowing that I actually would rather get you on as a solo podcast first, it just so happened to work out that one of the people wasn't in town. And so I was just like, you know what, timing's everything. I'd rather get him in for a solo podcast, establish a story. The next time, whenever that might be, then you've been here, you've done it. We already know. Let's get right into it. So timing is everything.
Timing is everything. Actually, something that, again, that really, really good. Timing is everything. I find that way with so much stuff in life, you know what I mean?
With artists, within music, like the touring and stuff.
Man, that song was a hit, and timing's everything. That's
a big one.
That's a big one. That is a big one.
That's another podcast.
Can't believe that didn't come up at all, because that's a huge one.
I'll bring that up on the second podcast.
Totally.
Last question for you. For somebody that's listening, hasn't found that passion, hasn't found the purpose out just yet, they're trying to figure their shit out, what's the best 2 to 3 pieces of advice you'd give to them?
Try everything, because you don't know what you're gonna like until you do. Don't think that don't not do something because you think other people, because immediately it might not be the smartest thing, or it might not be the easy way, or it might not be the obvious way. I think that was something I faced a lot in music. It was like, I went in because I loved it, and then it's not like this easy. You know what I mean? It's not fun. It's great when you love it, but it's not like it doesn't happen quick. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of nights figuring out
bottles of champagne.
No. There were a lot of nights figuring out is this a long-term thing? And my parents asking me the same thing and all that. You just do while your other friends are doing finance or this or that. Yeah. It's anything, starting your own anything. That's the case. So just patience in that sense, and those are probably the 2 biggest. I mean,
try things and have some patience.
Try everything, you know what I mean? Because why wouldn't you? You will literally never know if you like something until you do it yourself. And just don't worry if you do like something. Don't worry about, or when you find that thing, I should say, don't worry about, you know what I mean, how long it takes, or if it's weird, or if all your other friends are doing something else, because that's literally what it was. And
people will come.
Yeah.
People will come in packs.
Totally. And it becomes weird at some points when you're like everyone could be doing, everything seems really great and peachy for, everyone. And you're kind of like, damn, this is I really love this, but is this, can this happen? But you keep your head down and you keep doing it. And eventually you wake up and you're like, damn, I really could do this. I could make this into something that is sustainable and all that,
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
Jesse Coren.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Of course.
Absolute pleasure.
Do this again soon.
100%. It'll be a great podcast when that one happens.
That
group episode, just know it's coming, ladies and gentlemen.
I've never met either of them.
Huh?
I've never met either of them.
Oh, this is going to be
in person, I should say.
It's going to be a party.
Yeah.
We'll catch you guys next time. See ya.
Peace.